Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, to everyone who's tired of fake promises and empty hype, listen up. Imagine this. 30 days from today, you wake up, look in the mirror, and see a leaner, sharper, more powerful version of yourself. 10% of stubborn fat, gone. Your legs, strong, steady, with zero damage, zero regret. And all of this achieved through a strategy grounded in real science, not shortcuts or reckless gimmicks. Because here's the truth. Most people jump into extreme diets or high-impact workouts chasing quick results. They push through brutal leg days, overload on cardio, slash calories like maniacs, and end up not just losing fat, but damaging their joints, tearing muscles, or frying their metabolism. They quit, they rebound, they suffer. When we talk about dropping 10% of your body fat in 30 days, most people instantly think it's going to require extreme, some crazy starvation protocol, some crash diet where you're living off lettuce, lemon water, and sheer misery. But let's set the record straight. That's not how your body actually works, and that's not how you achieve sustainable, intelligent fat loss without tearing apart your muscle tissue or setting yourself up for hormonal chaos later. I want you to visualize your body as this beautifully adaptive system that responds to inputs, nutrition, movement, light, temperature, sleep. And when it comes to shedding fat, one of the biggest levers you have is creating a consistent, moderate energy deficit. That means taking in slightly fewer calories than your body needs to maintain its current weight so that it's gently forced to tap into stored fat to make up the difference. The key word here is slightly. That means we're talking about roughly 10 to 15% below your maintenance calories. So if you burn about 2,500 calories a day, you might eat around 2,200 to 2,250. That's enough of a deficit to coax steady fat loss, roughly 1 to 2 pounds a week, but it's not so aggressive that your metabolism panics and starts slowing down, or that your body starts tearing into lean muscle tissue for fuel. Because here's what happens when people go too hard, too fast. They slash their intake by 40% overnight. They're running on 1,200 calories when their body needs 2,500 just to cover basic functions plus workouts. At first, sure, the scale drops quickly, water weight, glycogen, maybe a little fat, but your body's not stupid. It senses an emergency. Cortisol goes up, thyroid hormones adjust down, metabolism shifts to conserve energy. Hunger hormones like ghrelin go up, satiety hormones like leptin go down. Your drive to eat becomes overwhelming, and inevitably you binge. Then you rebound, often gaining back not just fat, but sometimes more than you lost, because your metabolism is temporarily suppressed and primed to store. So instead of this lean, energized machine you were after, you end up feeling more sluggish, more frustrated, and more stuck than ever. The strategy we're using here isn't some mystery hack or biohacking nonsense. It's about controlling the inputs in a very measured, deliberate way. Think about it like trimming a bonsai tree. You're not taking a chainsaw to it. You're carefully snipping just enough to guide the shape to encourage the growth you want without shocking or destroying the system. So how do you actually pull this off? First, you get a realistic sense of your maintenance calories. That's the amount your body burns each day through basic physiological functions: breathing, pumping blood, thinking, digesting, plus your physical activity. You can estimate it using online calculators that factor in age, sex, weight, height, and activity level. Or you can simply track your intake for a week, watch the scale, and see where your weight stabilizes. If you're eating around 2,500 calories and your weight is steady, that's likely close to maintenance. Then you dial that back by about 10 to 15%. That's it. You're looking to create a small, steady shortfall. This approach is powerful because it allows your body to continue operating normally. Your thyroid, testosterone, estrogen, insulin, they don't get wildly disrupted. Your cortisol doesn't stay jacked up 24/7. Your sleep quality remains solid. Your workouts feel strong. And importantly, your legs, your entire lower body structure stays safe, because you're not trying to out-exercise a massive calorie gap with hours of punishing cardio. Now let's talk about what those calories should actually look like. This is where a lot of people get it wrong. They think all calories are equal, but the macronutrient composition absolutely matters, especially when you're trying to drop fat while preserving muscle and protecting your joints. Protein is your number one ally here. Aim for roughly 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. That means if you weigh 180 pounds, shoot for around 150 to 180 grams of protein daily. This keeps muscle protein synthesis humming, helps you hang on to lean mass, and even has a higher thermic effect, meaning your body burns more calories just digesting and metabolizing it. Then you balance in healthy fats. Fats aren't the enemy, they're critical for hormonal function. They support testosterone, estrogen, cell membrane integrity, even your brain's phospholipid structure. So include things like eggs, fatty fish, olive oil, avocados, nuts. Carbs, contrary to popular demonization, play a big role here too. They're your body's preferred quick fuel source, especially around training. You don't need to cut them to the ground, instead be strategic. Center most of your carbs around workouts to fuel performance and recovery. Think rice, potatoes, fruit, oats. Outside of that window, go a bit lighter. What's equally important is what you avoid, not because certain foods are inherently evil, but because ultra-processed, hyper-palatable foods hijack your satiety signals. The chips, the cookies, the sugary drinks, they make it insanely hard to stay in a modest deficit because they're engineered to be overconsumed. Stick primarily to single-ingredient, nutrient-dense foods. You'll naturally feel fuller on fewer calories, and your body will run cleaner. Now, hydration. If you're dehydrated even by 1 to 2%, that can elevate cortisol, disrupt electrolyte balance, and make your joints more vulnerable during exercise. So drink water, ideally half your body weight in ounces. If you weigh 180, that's roughly 90 ounces a day. And consider adding a pinch of high-quality salt to support electrolyte levels, especially if you're sweating a lot. Another tactical piece, avoid drinking your calories. Those liquid calories slip past satiety checkpoints. A fancy coffee with cream and syrup might add 400 calories without filling you up. A soda is the same story. Get those calories from whole foods that provide fiber, bulk, and micronutrients. And finally, patience. I can't emphasize this enough. We're not trying to gut your intake for a rapid crash, because that's exactly what compromises your legs, your tendons, your ligaments, your ability to show up the next day and train again. This is about building a sustainable path where your body burns primarily stored fat, preserves lean tissue, and allows you to keep hitting your workouts with quality without risking stress fractures or tendonitis that come from under recovery and excessive compensatory exercise. So when you hear 10% fat gone in 30 days, understand it's not magic, it's math plus consistent biological respect. It's setting up a moderate calorie deficit, prioritizing protein to safeguard muscle, using carbs to fuel and recover, embracing fats to stabilize hormones, and staying hydrated to keep your whole system, including your joints, functioning at the highest level. You give your body the right environment, it will do exactly what it's designed to do. Shed unnecessary fat, hold on to vital lean mass, and keep you feeling strong, stable, and motivated. That's the real difference between dropping weight and actually transforming your body composition in a way that lasts. Now, let's get into how you train through this 30-day period to lose 10% of your body fat without causing damage to your legs or frankly to any part of your kinetic chain, because this is where most people slip up badly. They hear fat loss and they immediately think they have to obliterate themselves with endless running, box jumps, or daily leg dominant hit circuits that pound the joints and fry the nervous system. They push to the point where ligaments strain, tendons ache, and what started as an enthusiastic mission to get lean ends up sidelined by inflammation, pain, or outright injury. I want to be clear on this. The best way to protect your legs and really your entire structural integrity while shedding fat efficiently is to train with intention, to understand how to apply stress in the right doses, and to respect the biology of your connective tissue. Muscle recovers relatively quickly. Your nervous system and your tendons, not so much. And when you pile on volume without a plan, it's your knees, your hips, your ankles that pay the price. So let's break down how to approach your training intelligently over these next 30 days, because I want you finishing this phase stronger, more stable, with your legs feeling solid under you, no chronic soreness, no weird twinges that keep you up at night, no dread every time you walk up the stairs. The backbone of your program during this period is going to be resistance training. When you're in a calorie deficit, your body needs a strong signal to hang on to muscle. Remember, body fat is stored energy. Muscle is expensive tissue. It costs calories to maintain. If you just cut food and do a bunch of cardio, your body sees less reason to keep all that metabologically costly muscle around. But if you're still lifting heavy enough, still providing mechanical tension, your body prioritizes keeping that lean mass. That's metabolic gold, because the more muscle you retain, the more robust your resting energy expenditure stays, and the better you look as fat comes off. Now here's the nuance. We're not talking about ego lifting. We're not chasing 1-rep maxes, nor are we doing endless sets to failure that grind your joints down. The best way to stimulate the muscle, protect your tendons, and spare your legs from unnecessary trauma is to train in a controlled rep range, somewhere around 6 to 12 reps for your compound lifts, sometimes pushing up to 15 for accessories, using a tempo that emphasizes control. A slow eccentric, that lowering phase, is especially powerful. That's where most muscle damage happens, and by controlling it, you actually build more resilience in the tendons over time. Think about what happens during a sloppy squat. You drop fast into the hole, bounce out, and your knees shoot forward while your lower back compensates. Sure, maybe you get the bar back up, but what's paying the price? Probably your patellar tendons, your lumbar discs, maybe even the tiny stabilizers around your ankles that weren't ready for that sudden load. Instead, picture a squat where you take 3 seconds to descend. Pause for a beat at the bottom to stabilize, then drive up with intent. That's not just safer, it also dramatically increases muscle recruitment. And that's what preserves your legs' functional capacity without overloading the connective tissue. And while we're on legs, don't fall into the trap of thinking your fat loss depends on annihilating your lower body. You do need to train your legs because they're massive muscles, they burn calories, they stimulate systemic growth factors, but volume needs to be intelligently dosed. Twice a week of direct leg factored work is plenty during a calorie deficit. In fact, I'd argue it's optimal. Hammering your quads and hamstrings 4 days a week while eating less isn't a recipe for faster fat loss. It's how you get patellar tendonitis or a strained adductor that keeps you from doing anything at all. For cardio, the smartest approach is to prioritize low impact, high frequency work. Incline walking is incredibly effective. It drives your heart rate into a fat oxidation zone without pounding your knees or shins the way jogging often does. 10 to 20 minutes after your resistance sessions, plus a couple longer sessions on your off days, 40 minutes at a brisk incline walk pace is enough to accelerate your calorie burn, help regulate insulin, and aid recovery without stacking more wear and tear on your joints. One of the biggest mistakes people make is turning cardio into a high impact slog on fatigued muscles. They go from heavy squats on Monday to 45 minutes of box jumps on Tuesday. By Thursday, their knees are barking. They compensate by shifting mechanics. Then suddenly their hips start to feel off. Then they're back. This cascading effect often starts with trying to do more instead of doing smarter. Now, we can't ignore your nervous system. When you're dieting, cortisol tends to run a bit higher. That's normal. Add heavy lifting plus hours of hard cardio, and you're living in a stress soup that delays recovery and keeps you inflamed. To combat this, you want a robust warm-up that primes your nervous system, not just your muscles. A few minutes of joint rotations, dynamic movements like leg swings, lunges with a twist, high knees, but controlled so your brain, your spinal cord, your whole neuromuscular system knows it's about to work. Post-workout, downshift with slow diaphragmatic breathing. Inhale 4 seconds, exhale 6 to 8. So your system gets the cue, it's time to shift out of high gear. This matters for tissue repair just as much as your macros do. Also, and this is massively overlooked, pay attention to footwear and your lifting surfaces. Doing lunges on soft turf with shoes that have unstable soles is a great way to irritate your knees. Stick to flat, stable surfaces with shoes that give you a solid tripod foot connection. When your foot's stable, your knee tracks better, your hip engages properly, and your spine stays in alignment. That's how you keep accumulating high quality reps without micro injuries that pile up into something serious. It's equally important to embrace recovery as part of the training plan. Sleep isn't optional here. It's when your tissues rebuild, your tendons get stronger, your neuromuscular pathways consolidate. Skimping on sleep in a deficit while pushing hard in the gym is a perfect recipe for waking up one morning with a sharp pain you can't trace to any single set because it was dozens of subpar recoveries stacked together. When all this comes together, the moderate volume, controlled tempo, smart exercise selection, strategic cardio, and dedicated recovery, you end up with legs that feel bulletproof even as the fat peels away. You'll find you stand up from a chair with more spring. You walk stairs without that dull ache. You finish a workout and think, I could do that again tomorrow if I had to. That's a sign you're training right. You're not just surviving sessions, you're building resilience. So many people chase soreness as if it's the primary goal. Soreness is a side effect. It can be part of the adaptation process, but it's not the metric that matters. What matters is progressive overload applied intelligently, muscles challenged but not joints punished, and the consistent ability to come back session after session, still feeling strong, still moving well, still maintaining excellent form. That's what creates real, lasting changes in body composition and protects your legs and really your entire foundation for everything else you want to do now and decades from now. Because at the end of the day, the smartest strategy is the one that keeps you in the game consistently, safely, with enough bandwidth left to keep adapting. That's how you end these 30 days, not just lighter, but stronger, with legs that feel unbreakable. And that is the only result that truly matters. Now let's zero in on one of the most overlooked, underappreciated, but absolutely pivotal parts of this entire process: daily movement outside of your formal workouts and how you actively promote recovery. Because if you want to shed 10% of your body fat in 30 days without wrecking your legs or any other part of your system, you can't just focus on the hour you spend in the gym. What you do in the other 23 hours is what quietly determines your results. Here's something most people get wrong. They think fat loss is all about burning a ton of calories in the workout itself. So they hammer through these sessions hoping to scorch 600, 800, maybe 1,000 calories. Then they're sedentary for the rest of the day. That's actually a losing strategy for two reasons. First, your body tends to compensate. You subconsciously move less, fidget less, slow down later because it's trying to conserve energy. Second, pounding your joints in a high intensity workout and then sitting at a desk or on a couch for hours is a great way to stiffen up, lose circulation, and undercut your recovery. What moves the needle more effectively is increasing your overall daily movement, your NEAT, or non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This is the energy you burn walking around your house, cleaning up, doing errands, standing instead of sitting, pacing on phone calls, parking farther away. These calories add up massively over the day, often more than your workout itself, and they place virtually zero additional strain on your joints or tendons. That's why one of the simplest, most powerful things you can do right now is make walking a core part of your daily protocol. Aim for 8,000 to 12,000 steps per day. That's not some magical threshold, but it's a realistic evidence-backed range where we see improvements in insulin sensitivity, lipid metabolism, even inflammatory markers, and it's entirely joint-friendly. A particularly smart tactic is incorporating short, brisk walks right after meals. Even a 10-minute walk post-lunch and post-dinner dramatically flattens the glucose spike from that meal, meaning less insulin required, less chance for fat storage, and a more steady energy level. So you want to schedule that probably 5 to 6 miles after each meal. And then anytime that you gain insulin required, less fat distribution, or if you gain fat required, less fat distribution, you can incorporate less food into your diet, less food into your life, and you can still improve body composition. In addition to that, if you're in a deficit, pulling out your meal and eating it in a fasted state is another simple way to get some fat on surfaces and just stick it on whatever's leanest to you. So give yourself 3 hours, build in fasting windows so that you can eat. It's not just about calories out, it's about metabolic efficiency. It also keeps your legs moving in a low impact way, encouraging nutrient delivery to the muscles and tendons you've been training. Then there's recovery. Most people think of recovery as just not exercising, but passive rest isn't the same as optimal recovery. What we want is active recovery, movement that promotes blood flow, clears out metabolic byproducts, and supports lymphatic circulation without imposing new stress on the joints or the central nervous system. Those light walks, gentle mobility drills, or even standing periodically at work all accelerate how quickly your muscles repair and how fresh your legs feel the next time you train. We also need to talk about sleep because it's where the vast majority of tissue repair, hormone regulation, and neural recalibration happens. You can be doing everything right with your calorie deficit and your workouts, but if you're consistently cutting your sleep to 5 or 6 hours, your cortisol stays elevated, your appetite regulating hormones get out of sync, your insulin sensitivity drops, and your muscles recover more slowly. That means more soreness, higher injury risk, more fat retention. There's this direct relationship between sleep quality and your risk of damaging your legs. Often it's a small compensation repeated under fatigue that breaks the chain. So set up your sleep hygiene. Keep the bedroom cool and dark. limit screens an hour before bed. That bright blue light is powerful at suppressing melatonin. If you absolutely have to be on a device, use warm filters or blue blocking glasses. Try to get natural light exposure in the morning to set your circadian rhythm properly so that by night your body knows it's time to downshift. All of this sounds simple, but these are high leverage habits that protect your joints and accelerate fat loss by optimizing how your body partitions nutrients during sleep. Now, let's address stress because it weaves through all of this. When you're in a calorie deficit, your body is already under a mild form of stress. That's by design. You're encouraging it to pull from stored fat, but layer on work pressures, poor relationships, financial worries, constant digital bombardment, and your sympathetic nervous system stays activated far more than is healthy. Chronically elevated stress hormones like cortisol not only make it harder to burn fat, especially visceral belly fat, but they also delay recovery from training, keep inflammation elevated in your joints, and tighten up your muscles, making you more prone to strains. A simple, scientifically backed tool is deliberate breath work. Just 5 minutes a couple times a day of slow, controlled nasal breathing can shift you into a parasympathetic state. Try inhaling for 4 seconds, exhaling for 6 to 8. This elongates your exhales relative to your inhales, directly telling your nervous system to calm down. Do this after workouts and before bed. It becomes a force multiplier for both fat loss and joint protection. It's also worth mentioning cold exposure. If you're carrying soreness or slight inflammation in your legs from training, a cool shower or a targeted cold pack can blunt excessive swelling and reduce perception of muscle soreness. That doesn't replace systemic recovery, but it's a useful adjunct. Just don't overdo it immediately post-strength workout because you want to allow the inflammation process to signal adaptation first. Later in the day or on rest days, it can be great for bringing swelling down. The thread running through all of this is that you're not simply trying to do more to burn fat. You're setting up an environment where your body feels safe to let go of stored energy, where your tissues get the resources they need to rebuild stronger, and where your nervous system can toggle effectively between sympathetic drive during training and parasympathetic recovery afterward. The beautiful part is when you nail this, your nutrition, your smart resistance training, your daily movement and active recovery, you start seeing profound synergy. Your legs don't just survive this 30-day phase, they thrive. You find yourself moving with more freedom. Little aches that used to flare up begin to fade. Your stride feels smoother, your posture improves, and even mundane tasks like carrying groceries or climbing stairs start to feel easier. That's the compounded return of doing this the right way. Because ultimately, dropping 10% of your body fat in 30 days means more than just a number on the scale. It means orchestrating a process where every system in your body, metabolic, musculoskeletal, hormonal, neural, is aligned and optimized. You don't achieve that by wrecking yourself with punishment protocols. You get it by respecting the physiology, applying the right inputs at the right times, and letting the body adapt the way it's naturally built to. Now we've covered dialing in your nutrition, training intelligently to protect your legs, and building daily movement and deep recovery into your routine. But there's one more crucial piece that ties all of this together. It's the ability to track and adjust. This might sound almost too simple, maybe even boring, compared to the flashy biohacks or trendy diet protocols people chase. But if you want to see a real, measurable 10% drop in fat over 30 days with no leg damage, no burnout, and no metabolic backslide, this is the step you cannot skip. Because here's the reality. Most people fail not because they're unmotivated, but because they're flying blind. They're guessing. They cut calories aggressively for a week. Then they don't see the scale budge. Maybe they're holding water. Maybe it's hormonal. Maybe they're just digesting slowly that day. And they panic. They slash more calories, ramp up cardio, stress skyrockets, and suddenly their legs ache, their sleep tanks, their energy flatlines, or the opposite happens. They think they're in a deficit because they ate clean, but they're pouring olive oil with a heavy hand, munching handfuls of nuts that add up, maybe drinking hidden calories, and 3 weeks later, they're frustrated because their body composition hasn't shifted at all. What changes this is putting some simple, objective measurements in place. It doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, simpler is better because you're more likely to stick with it consistently. A few key metrics give you a crystal clear dashboard on whether your plan is actually working or needs small tweaks. Start with the scale. Weigh yourself first thing in the morning, after using the bathroom, before you've eaten or had water. Do it daily if you can, but don't obsess over day-to-day fluctuations. Water retention from salt, stress, or hormonal shifts can swing it up and down by a few pounds. What matters is the average over the week. If after 7 days you see a downward trend, even if it's half a pound, you're on track. Over 30 days, that compounds into that targeted 10% fat drop. Then layer in waist circumference. This is massive because as you're losing fat and retaining muscle through resistance training, the scale might not move as dramatically as you'd expect, but your waist shrinking tells you you're losing visceral and subcutaneous fat, which is the real goal. Take a soft tape measure, pull it snug, not tight, measure around the navel. Do it once a week, same conditions, ideally same day, same time. If you're seeing that tape inch down by even half an inch every week or two, that's a powerful indicator. And don't discount photos. Take photos every week because you live in your body, you often don't notice the slow transformations. But when you compare week 1 to week 4, you'll see a sharper jawline, a more defined waist, legs that look firmer. That's visual proof your protocol is working, and it builds tremendous confidence to stay the course. Now, if after a week or two your metrics aren't moving at all, no scale drop, no waist reduction, no visual changes, it's time to adjust, but adjust gently. If your deficit has been 10%, bump it to 12 or 15% by trimming a little from carbs or fats, not protein. Or you can add a small additional walk after dinner, something low impact that doesn't stress your legs but raises your daily energy burn. Avoid the temptation to overcorrect. Cutting too deep or adding hours of intense cardio is exactly how you end up compromising joint integrity and hormonal balance. And tracking doesn't stop at fat loss indicators. Keep a loose log of how your legs feel. Are you waking up with soreness that lasts more than 48 hours? Any lingering aches around the knees, hips, or ankles? Are you feeling weaker in your lifts, needing to drop weight significantly? Those are subtle signals that your body might be edging toward under recovery, even potential injury. If you notice them, that's your cue to scale back slightly, maybe take an extra rest day, or swap in lighter movement like mobility circuits instead of heavy lower body loading. It's about being proactive so small tweaks prevent big problems. Another layer that's incredibly valuable is subjective but real energy and mood. When you're in a properly managed deficit with balanced training and adequate recovery, you might feel a bit hungry at times, sure, but you shouldn't feel like you're dragging through your day. Your motivation to train should stay relatively steady. You should still have a decent sex drive. Your sleep should remain restorative. If these start slipping significantly, that's another sign to adjust. Maybe you need slightly more carbs around your workouts or a refeed day to normalize leptin and give your system a psychological break. Remember, the goal of this entire 30-day strategy isn't to suffer. It's to create a methodical, measurable, repeatable process that not only sheds fat, but preserves muscle and protects your joints, especially your legs, which are bearing the brunt of your movement. This is why tracking and adjusting is so critical. It takes your fat loss from a hopeful guess to a guaranteed outcome. You're no longer wondering if you're on the right path. You're literally seeing it in your data, in your photos, in how your clothes fit, in how your legs carry you without pain or fatigue. And this process does something even more powerful than just burning fat. It builds self-trust. Every time you step on the scale, take that waist measurement, glance at your progress photo, and see improvement, it rewires your brain. It proves to you that your efforts pay off, that consistency matters, that you have control over your physiology. It's not just random luck or genetics. This is an incredibly motivating realization, and it keeps you locked in for the full 30 days and beyond. The beauty here is that by tracking modest metrics and making small, intelligent course corrections, you avoid the massive disruptive swings that wreck most people's bodies. You don't panic and crash your calories, blowing out your hormones and weakening your tendons. You don't ramp up to brutal, leg-destroying cardio sessions that leave you icing your knees every night. You navigate the process smoothly with your nervous system, your joints, your muscles, all aligned to support the fat loss, not rebel against it. And that's how you finish this month, not just leaner, but with legs that feel powerful, stable, ready to keep progressing. Because the end game isn't just to look better at day 30, it's to set yourself up so you can train harder, recover faster, stay injury-free, and keep building on these results for months and years to come. And that right there is how you guarantee this isn't just a quick fix, but the start of something extraordinary. So when you put this all together, dialing in your nutrition with a smart controlled deficit, training intelligently to build and protect your legs, weaving daily movement and quality recovery into your life, and tracking plus adjusting every step of the way, you create a strategy that doesn't just strip away 10% of your fat in 30 days, but leaves you stronger, healthier, and fully equipped to keep going. And that's exactly how you turn a single month of disciplined effort into a lifetime of real, unstoppable transformation.